Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is. Welcome to episode number
82.
82. Well, we're glad you're here with us. We have a couple things we want to talk about before we dive into our topic today. First and foremost is we have something coming for you.
Coming May 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. Yes. Love that date. We will be announcing a new something. So if you want to learn more about this new something, get on our email list. You'll want to hear about it. You'll want to be involved. You'll want to know all about it. And yes, I'm keeping it a little bit secret because the emails announcing it are going out soon. And I don't want to announce on the podcast before everyone else knows.
Amy is terrible at keeping secrets.
I am, and so I'm trying so hard. You got to respect that.
We know as a family, if we want something secret, you can't tell mom or it's going to come out. So it's just terrible.
Okay, let me just clarify this. I am very good at
defensive.
I'm not defensive.
You're getting defensive.
I'm very good at keeping important information, like private things that people tell me.
So if we're trying to surprise somebody for something, not
terrible. If I'm like really excited about a birthday gift, terrible.
Let me say this.
Like that kind
Our
of
youngest
stuff.
daughter, when we surprised Amy last time by inviting my oldest daughter and grandbaby to fly in with her unbeknownst to her for her birthday, Megan's no big deal. It's mom. She'll never figure it out.
Ouch, that hurts.
But if we try to surprise Megan with anything, that girl will figure it out. So.
Yes. And she just knows. So that kind of thing, yes, they just sniff me out.
So anyway, it's just to say this is very hard for Amy to keep this secret for y'all.
Yes, because I'm excited.
That's how excited she is.
And when I'm excited, I just want to tell you all about it. And this is real restraint, y'all.
Yeah. So this weekend, we worked more on the house. No wallpaper. So we didn't have to do that.
We've really been testing the limits of our marriage.
There is.
Trying to
hang a mirror.
Another bathroom. Yeah. Lots of like detailed projects. Like, whew.
We have been pushing it. Empty nesting, and now all of a sudden the house gets redone, I guess. But it's been fun and enjoyable to create with Amy. We have found our stride. I build, she finishes. She paints. And I stay out of the way.
Detail work.
And I'm like, whatever. Just tell me where to hold the light so you can paint underneath it. I'll be good. So it's worked out well. And then I found times to take big breaths when things don't work out well and start over again. So it's been a great learning experience. We did all that work, so we decided we wanted to spoil ourselves and go out on a date to a movie. It's maybe like once every few months we go out to the movie theater.
Like once a year.
Oh, maybe once.
We're
maybe
not big movie theater goers. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
We watch a lot of movies. We just usually stay home and do it.
Because we like our house. We like our cozy couch.
Although we're making this guest room and it's really nice. We're like, this might be our hotel room.
We're going to use it as our other room.
I can't tell you what Amy called it live on air. So anyway, you can all guess. But we went and saw a movie, and our daughter and son-in-law had gone and seen this while they were here, while we watched the grandbaby, and they said it was fantastic. And we didn't really think it was going to be all that good. But
we didn't.
Everyone was raving about it, and I couldn't even find a seat.
I had heard a lot of good things about it, so I thought maybe there's something to it.
So we went and saw Mission Hail Mary.
Project.
Mission Project, same thing. Hail Mary.
And I think what was so beautiful about it, it's really the story of a relationship.
Yes.
And what happens in relationships, and when you get too close or too distant, and the ups and the downs and the challenges and the sacrifices and the tender moments. It's about all of that. And I mean, I was crying, sobbing several points, but like the sweet sob, actually there was sad sobbing in there too.
I think there's the cool part about it really is because it starts with a relationship. And if you haven't seen it, we're trying not to totally give it away. But
go see it.
It starts
it's worth it.
with a relationship that there's zero ability to communicate. Zero. Mm-hmm. Right? And so it walks through this pattern of how are we going to be able to communicate when we're in a life and death situation? Like our lives are on the line. The world's lives are on the line. You know,
No pressure.
Big deal. No pressure. But to me, that was the great part of it. There always the mushy, you know, happy parts of it too, which weren't bad. But it was really cool to watch them build from nothing and figure out how to communicate. And to me, I almost wish we had that option.
Like start from zero?
Yeah, because we don't go through those motions a lot. When we first start dating, we try, but I don't think we set foundations well enough. We don't communicate. Like, literally, this is the word I use to do this or explain this.
I think
they had to build a language, a translation language between the two of them from very much the scratch.
And so many parts of it reminded me of moments with some of our neurodivergent children. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is bringing it all
Says the
back.
alien is autistic.
And so also I think in relationships, you have to really learn the underlying meanings, like Greggy was saying, of different things. And that's what they spend a lot of time doing. Like, this is the word, but what does it mean?
Yeah. And it highlighted as it went on and progressed. And as they got better at communicating, you saw the funny things that happen in a relationship. And even the quirky parts of, it means this for me. Does that mean it, back in my world, it means this back in your world? Anyway,
And then
I
the
thought it was
points
really,
where
really
they're
good.
like, I'm being smothered.
Yeah,
I need space.
space.
Which happens too. Like, there were so many parallels to just any marriage relationship or very close relationship. And it was so well done.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Like the acting and the cinematography and just all of the effects were
Ryan Gosling was amazing.
Ryan was amazing.
It was good.
So believable. And walking into it knowing nothing about it,
Yeah, we hadn't read the book, which is unusual because Amy reads every book in the world.
I usually do. I'm not a huge science fiction fan. I will read it, and my kids love fantasy and science fiction, so I do read them. But it's not like my preferred genre. And so I hadn't read this one yet. I'd almost read it like 5 times. I almost downloaded it on my Kindle. I don't even know how many times.
You're going to go back and read it now?
Yeah, it's by Andy Weir. And I always like to know, I usually read the book first and then see the movie, which makes me not love the movie as much. So this time I'm going to go in reverse. I watch the movie and I'll go back and read the book. But I think it was just such a well done insight into the normal challenges of having relationships, maintaining them, understanding like the connections that develop and even how those connections can get frustrating. And then there's like awe and wonder and tenderness and frustration and like just all of the things.
Decision points that are difficult. They have to be made.
Yeah.
They have to make. Anyway, it was really good. Go see it. Amy has a problem. It's an addiction. It's called books, which is the good addiction to have.
I love my
and she's
addiction.
passed that on to our kids. And if you've ever seen an addiction, my daughter and son-in-law have it. And I'll explain to you why we know they have it. So they're in the process of moving across country from Jacksonville all the way up to Whidbey Island, which is very north part of Seattle,
like
almost to the
literally.
Canadian border. So as far south as almost you can get in the United States to almost, I guess you go to Alaska, but continental
Yeah.
up there. But it's very, very close. And in the process, they had books that they bought shipped to our house because they're coming through this way so they can throw it on the moving van and take it with them. That's how addicted they are to books. I guess there's a lot worse addictions to have.
I mean, I'm a whole fan of this because I love books and
Yeah, and Addie gets to get read every night through FaceTime because she loves books too. Anyway.
Addie's our granddaughter. She does love books.
It's a good habit, I guess, to have, but that's funny that you hadn't read that book. But they've read, I think, every book in the world. Your whole house is going to be full of books.
Yeah. I mean, what a dream.
Me, what a nightmare. Like, there's no place to go. Books are looking at me the whole time. I had these
That
beautiful
sounds like
bookshelves
heaven.
in my last office back in our old house. And I'd be on these meetings, and I'd always get compliments about my books and bookshelf. And I wanted to say, well, they're not mine.
I haven't read a single one of these books. They're all my wife's.
There's a few I had, but I'm like, these are all my wife's books. They make me look smart. I know, so I appreciate it. So anyway, to each their own. I'm grateful for it because I think it's helped our kids be very, very successful in what they've done because to me, they got so good at reading and their lexicon got so high that they can do really good at tests. And when they do tests and can do really good tests, that helps them set them up for college and other stuff. They're way better at taking tests than I am.
Well, I think more importantly than a test, it's opened their minds to so many different
No, it's all about the test. Don't go anywhere else.
Activities, realities, perspectives, curiosities. So,
says the woman that can't fantasize. All right, let's go on.
excuse me? That is not true anymore.
True.
That was true at one time, but sir, that is not true anymore.
That is true. Today, we don't want to just talk about what we've been talking about today, which is interesting because we're 10 minutes into the podcast, 10 minutes and 15 seconds, actually. But today, we want to talk about a topic that has come up in our relationship and was a struggle. And we've seen the pattern start happening in some of our clients too. And so when we start seeing this, we say, that was a struggle for us. And now we start seeing a pattern in a few of our clients. We usually know there's probably more of y'all out there that are dealing with this and struggling with it. So today we want to talk about what happens when someone from the outside, an extended family member, maybe even a close family member, has an impact on our marriage relationship.
So let me just give a few examples that have come up. There's one client, her and her husband have been married just a little while, and her mother-in-law lives just around the corner. And recently they welcomed a new baby. And since baby has come, mother-in-law has tried to take control and demands, asks for them to be over all the time. When they're over, wants it to be exactly the way she wants it, wants to take control of the baby, and is very critical of this wife. And so you have a situation that's difficult, right? You have a mother-in-law that is wedging herself between this husband and wife. I'm thinking of another situation where the husband married into a family who loves family vacations, loves them. And so in this family, the cost is not an issue, and you are expected to go on these family vacations. It's like part of being like a bona fide member of this family. And they're expensive and they can take up a lot of resources. And this husband was saying, if I'm going to pay this much money, can I not have a say in what's going to happen on these vacations? Because they tended to be planned completely by the parents. And he would say, of course, I want to be a part of this family. Of course, I want our kids and their cousins, and you want all of the sibling things going on you want to develop good relationships. But also, if I'm paying this much money, can I not have a say somewhere? And feeling very ostracized, because if he tried to say, hey, what about on this vacation and then would get immediately lambasted and how dare you, and you're trying to destroy this, and this is our family's thing. And anyways, so you're getting this picture of where outside family units, maybe it's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, start to become problematic within the marriage, where it starts to create a conflict between the husband and wife.
Yeah. Think about it, right? We are struggling hard enough to take two complete entities, bring them together into an intimate relationship, mix, match, figure out what's going on, try to have a good sex life, try to figure out finances, try to make a life. There's
house.
So many things that go into a marriage, and we don't really expect outside influences to come in that cause that problem. Our personal one for us was, hey, we moved out to Texas, and we had the opportunity to bring my mom out here because my dad had passed away, and she was in San Diego, which was a very expensive place to live. And she was struggling making ends meet, and she needed a new beginning. And I asked her, hey, do you want to come move out to Texas? And she said, yeah. So we brought her into our home, and she lived with us for a while. And so we went through this personally. And I think the struggle that really comes down to the meat of what we're going on here is that you've been raised in this home. There are patterns that you have dealt with, good and bad.
That are familiar.
That are very familiar.
That are like whole dynamic systems.
Yeah, you know how to deal in that system. You've survived in that system. Your mind has figured out how to do it. Now, whether there's places to get better and to improve, absolutely there always is. But in reality, you survived that system.
And
you dealt
usually
with it.
that survival, you learned, maybe you became the peacemaker.
Yeah, coping medicines.
Maybe you became the overfunctioner that went in and solved every problem. Oh, I just thought of another one. Speaking of mother-in-law, I have another client who's a wife and her husband took in their mom. And now the mother-in-law has become the primary focus. So when husband comes home from work, he takes care of mother-in-law. He says, you wife and your 3 kids look like you're doing fine. I'm going to go take care of mother-in-law. When in fact, wife is like exhausted and burnt out. And so she's, hey, why did mom take over my place?
Yeah, and so I think all these great examples, the first thing we want to go to and fix, and it was us ourselves too, is we want to fix that other person that is impacting our marriage. We want to change them. So for example, the mother-in-law that's coming in and taking control, we want to change that mother-in-law and make her not take control.
We want to say the right words or be like, hey, you need to stop doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah, we think we have control to change that without impacting anything else. And the truth is, yeah, we can say that and probably need to say that. There needs to be some boundaries set. But we want to focus today on what boundaries really mean, because when we talk about boundaries, most of the time people like, okay, I'm going to make other people behave the way I want them to make. That's what I define a boundary. They're going to know that they're impacting me and they need to change. And the truth is, from the very beginning, we have no power to do that. And so it becomes uber frustrating to try to do that yourself, or try to force your spouse to do that, or try to be forced by your spouse to do that when you have no control over that. So we want to talk a little about what we do have control over. What does a real good boundary look like, and why are we going to set them? And how do we do this in a way that is good for us and helps us progress, and we stop focusing on those things we can't control?
Right. So a boundary, like you said, most people have it very confused. They usually think of boundaries like the ultimatum, right? If you don't change, then I won't, right? They're based in the other person. A boundary actually is completely related to you, how you're going to take care of you, how you're going to respect you or your marriage or your kids or your finances or whatever's going on. So a boundary sounds like, if you choose to yell at me, then I will leave. Notice the control is over me, not the other.
And it's not to change the other person. I'm not leaving so you change your behavior. It's not to punish the other person. Right. It's literally to say, I am not going to take this because I feel like I am worth more than this. And so I'm going to extract myself out of the situation. Now, when we do that too, sometimes one of our coping mechanisms is to run. Right? So we're not saying run and avoid it, but it's really defining, this behavior is not okay for me, and this is the action I'm going to take when this behavior happens.
Right. So I have several examples of in-laws that will just walk into the house. And if that is like a violation of your space and your privacy, you might say, if you don't choose to knock, I'm going to lock the doors, or I'm going to change the locks, right? Like, you're talking about, if you just walk into my house, then I'm going to change the locks. I need you to call or let me know or check in first. And if you don't, then the door is not going to be open, right? Like, it's saying what you are going to do, not trying to control them.
Now, why is this going to cause problems? Because it is. It's going to be good. It's what we need to do, but it's instantly going to cause problems because we have spent our whole lives usually trying to avoid conflict, trying to keep the emotions that come up when someone doesn't like something we do to a minimum, especially when it's involved with our parents.
Right. Our parents
That's
are
how we grew. Like we learned about what was right and wrong by controlling the outcome of our parents. That was a phase of development.
Well, there are primary programmers. There are primary caretakers. They're the first people that held us and loved us and took care of us. And it is really hard to test, I don't want to say test, it's really hard to challenge that in any way. Like, if there's a relationship that's the hardest to challenge, it's that.
Yep. And so as soon as you're going to set this boundary that says, I'm going to do these things, you're going to cause chaos. You are going to cause chaos. But what you're going to learn is that as you can be able to control your own emotions and you steady yourself and you figure out what is right for you, you're going to stay in a perspective that allows you to be centered and calm, and allows you not to do it out of spite or change. And when you're doing that, not out of spite or change, you can stay in that centeredness stuff. And it changes the whole dynamic of what's going on in there.
Right. Boundaries really actually need to be set from a more respectful, compassionate space for yourself. And this isn't against or attacking. In order to take care of either you and your spouse or your family, or maybe not overspend on a vacation you can't actually afford. This is not done from revenge or anger or like, I'll show you I've got more control than you. This isn't a power struggle.
If you're striking out with an emotion and you haven't got your emotions in check, then you're probably in a place that's not good and you shouldn't do this boundary. So as we've been talking about in everything in intimacy and as we put in relationships, getting the emotions that come up when you go around this topic and understanding what it means to you, because these emotions mean something, right? Your body is firing these emotions off just not for funsies. It's trying to protect you from something. So working through and understanding what those are first and then setting the boundary is really important. So Amy loves it when I get personal. So let's get personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd grown up in this situation, my father had passed away. I was the oldest son. I was really close to my mom. I had a good relationship with my mom. Her and I got along well. We were a lot alike. And so I was put in this situation of this is how I knew to be with my mom, right? And I had all these emotions around her and my duties as her oldest son and what that looked like. So whenever there was something that happened in our home that I was like, that's quite not right. I don't really agree with that, or that's probably not a good thing. My emotions were so tied up in what I just said that I couldn't see clearly what was happening in reality. And I could not set a clear boundary or have a conversation. There's been no more visceral emotions in my life. There's been some others that have been close maybe, but very, very similar in the overwhelming power of emotions that came when I felt I was completely trapped between two women that I loved. One that I had chosen to love and want to be intimate with, and the other one that gave me life and brought me into this world. And it was an awful, talk about hell. I think that's literally hell on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had no idea how to figure out where these emotions were coming from and why they were being triggered, I avoided. I could not have the conversation. If Amy brought anything up, I would just shut down. I would get flooded with emotions. I would stop having conversations. Sometimes I would get up and leave, right? And I didn't have the same coping mechanism with my mom because I didn't have that way of doing it. And so I would avoid just having conversations with her altogether, right? It would never come up. So I want to say this because it's a very, very difficult place to be. And I want to acknowledge that. But I also want to acknowledge that there's core fundamental things that you can do to put you in a place where you can have these conversations and you can set correct boundaries.
Mm-hmm. I think what you're talking about first is just looking at what is it that I believe is my role in this relationship. And because you believed your role was that you were responsible for your mom, you couldn't actually look at what was working or not working while we were taking her in. It was like, no, I just have to do everything for her because I'm responsible for her. And if it sucks for everyone else, too bad. And so you first have to identify in your family of origin, like, what was the system there? Was it everyone has to keep mom happy? That was in my family. Everyone has to take care of mom. We all have to just do the right thing. Or maybe it's always your duty or responsibility to keep family members or parents happy. There can't ever be actual honest discussion, or you can't talk about what's difficult. And so you got to look at what were these like founding beliefs that were programmed into you, and say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I understand it. But now from where I'm standing, what kind of relationship do I want to have? What is actually mine and what is not mine?
Yeah. And I bet if you've been listening any time, you'll never guess what my core problem was with this. Never guess. I know I'm a whore. Okay. I was a validation whore. So in my family origin, we always had to show that we were perfect, that we were doing everything in a perfect way. Our worth was tied up around our actions. If we did these things and checked these boxes, we were worth something. If we varied outside that box and did something else, we were not worth anything. And so if I'm thinking about it and going around how that looks, not only is the pressure from my mom and having to take care of my mom to a dad that's passed away, and that's almost harder, right? Because there's the expectation of a dad that's no longer here, but yet he has set an expectation for me because he didn't take care of her and he left her. So I have to take care of her now. But all the impact of my siblings around me too. So they were always looking in, and I don't know if they're necessarily doing it on purpose, but because the way we were raised in this, you have to look this way and you have to do these things to have value. I also said, if I mess this up, then my value is going to be nothing and they're going to be watching. And so it was all tied around the validation from my mom, from my siblings, and from my family, from my wife, right? So now I had, is my value, am I worth something, not only tied up into how is my intimate relationship with my wife? And we know how that works. We talk about it all the time. That's what I was trying to extract out of her. I had these outside pressures around me trying to validate me that I was okay.
Yeah. In my family of origin, I had learned to be the overfunctioner. I was like actually more the mom than my mom was. And I would take care of meals and laundry and running errands and taking people where they needed to be and talking to them at night. And when my dad passed, I literally had many adults around me say, okay, it's your job. You got to take care of this family. And that's what I took into our marriage. Like, it's my job. Not only do I have to take care of my mom, I have to take care of my family. And then when you get your own family, there's going to be some conflicts because guess what? You can't do it all.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to let go of the identity of I take care of everyone and step back towards what is mine, what is yours, what would actually be healthier for them to take care of. And of course, I love them and I want to support them, but also what's within our capacity.
Was it Brene Brown that introduced this concept of backyards? I can't remember who introduced it to
No, I
it.
think it was Cloud and Boundaries.
Was it? Oh, yeah, that book. Great book, by the way. Go read it. It introduced this. I didn't read it, but Amy read it, told me about it. As we talked about at the first of this podcast. But it really talked about this concept of understanding what you own and have control over and what is someone else's. And I still use it today and say, Amy, excuse me, you're in my backyard, right? And I didn't invite you in here.
Right. Like the concept that you are the house on a piece of property. Boundaries are the fences around that property. Within that fence is all of yours to take care of. You don't need to be going over to your neighbor's yard and taking care of their landscaping or cleaning their home or telling them how to decorate it. If you can see they need help, you can obviously offer within your means.
And help you pull those weeds on the fence.
Would you like some help with those? That's totally different. But just inviting yourself unannounced and just taking over, that is not a healthy boundary. Or not having any boundaries around yourself or others and always being in everyone else's yards and business and homes and not having a clear delineation of who you are.
I wished I could tell you the story turned out beautiful. There was a beautiful ending. And I guess where we're at now, there is a beautiful ending. But this often is what happens in these relationships, and it's not the great way around it. And so we want to be able to help you get a better way around it. But in our situation, it finally came to a head, right? I had to literally know, if I keep on acting this way, I'm going to lose my wife. And I was almost put to a point where I'm going to choose one or the other. And it blew up and it got uglier before it got much better because I was still wrapped around this validation piece of it, right? I was trying to please Amy and seek my worth out of her. I was trying to please my mom and seek my worth out of her. And those are two impossible things to do. And so I was in the midst of an impossible task. And it was like a nightmare day in and day out, right? Mm-hmm. So it finally came to a head. Convinced my mom. She went on a mission. It was great for her. She left to go do that. And that was good. But it wasn't fixing the underlying problem. And that's what we're trying to say is that the underlying problem is understanding how you deal with emotions, how you understand your value and where you sit in an ecosystem of a family, understanding the patterns that were given to you as a child and which ones are helpful and which ones are not. And being able to take a real look at those kind of things and say, here's the things of how I was raised, and I appreciate these things, and it made me who I am. But here's some baggage that needs to go away. And at the time, I could not see that. I could not see the baggage going away, because in my mind, it was, hey, if I do that, I'm going to ruin one family or the other, and the relationship will no longer be there. But the truth is, when I came to grips of what I had control over and what was important to me, and I stopped being a validation whore. I still am a member of the club, because you're always a member of the club and you find yourself in there every once in a while. But day in, day out, I would stop being a validation whore. And I stopped seeking validation out of those people that I loved and trying to extract it from them. It changed my life. It changed my world. Because now I could say, what is important to me? And I can have a hard conversation with someone I love, because I'm not trying to change them.
Right. And without the fragile ego, because if you don't actually know who you are and your ego is too fragile and you need them to
it
approve
will get
of
crushed.
you were going to fall right back into whatever your defense mechanism was to try and protect that ego.
Right. And going down that path of understanding that and building your own self-worth and understanding what's valuable to you and what's not valuable to you is so important. It's the crux of the foundation we're trying to build for you, so that you can have intimate relationships, whether that's intimate relationship with your spouse. So that for me, it was Amy, and that changed my relationship forever to the better. I can't even tell you, like night and day. Sometimes even just the other day, I said, Amy, is this right? Is this real? It's, yeah, duh, idiot. We've been doing it this way for 2 years. I'm like, I know, but it's so different from the 17, 18 years we spent before. Sometimes I fall back and, is this okay? Is this right? Is this going well? And the answer is yes, because it changed that. But it also changed the way that I interact with my siblings and my mom, right? And it's different. And some of that's good and some of that's sad. But I can stand on my own 2 feet and know who I am, and that I can love them and have an intimate relationship with them, because I can be honest to who I am. I don't have to cover up for them either. This is who I am. And I love you, and I hope you love me too, right?
And you may like some parts of me and not others, and that's not, absolutely great. We would love you. We want everyone to love all parts of us, but honestly, that's just not a reality.
It's impossible. But know how scary that was, right? Because I'd spent my whole life up to that point trying to show them that I was worth something. And now I'm going to be vulnerable and expose my bad parts of me. I have 3 older sisters, and the one right above me, man, we were oil and water.
You guys,
we could not mix because of this. And I looked at the patterns I was doing with her, and the whole time I would talk to her, I was just trying to tell her how wonderful I was. That's what I spent my whole time talking to her.
And shocking, she kind of resisted that.
And she kind of pushed back. And at first I thought it's because she was like emotional and weak and everything. And now I look back at it, I was like, no, she probably was the one most based in reality, right? And all my other sisters were probably going off and saying, he's a nutcase, and just wasn't saying anything. And she's, what are you talking about, Greg? So in the end, I appreciated that. And we had a much better relationship of where we can be open and honest with who we are and what we're about, because I've gotten out of that place. But like I said, it was a painful process to go through. And the first thing you want to do is you want to fix your sister. You want to fix your mom. You want to fix your spouse.
You want to say the right words that are going to help them see your side and justify all your points.
I am so right. And they just need to see it like me.
Convince them of everything that you are doing and why it's,
If you ever have the thought of, if this person would just do or see or think in this way, if that goes through your mind, it should be like red sirens alert. You know how it goes off in the movie? It should be going off in your head and saying, this is a sign that I am emotionally immature in some place, that I need to look at myself and figure out where that is.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it doesn't become easy.
Nope.
The process was very painful, and there's still painful moments that happen because of it, but it's reality.
And it's more true to you.
Yes.
You show up true. You're not hiding. You kind of had this persona that you would go into when you were with your family.
Oh, yeah.
And I would watch the shift and be like, who is this guy? And you now go in as you.
And they don't like it sometimes.
And sometimes they're like, ugh, because they liked the persona. They liked the idea that
because it stroked their validation.
Yes.
Ego too.
And so that's what we're kind of dismantling sometimes.
I mean, I think probably most families, I don't know, maybe not, But most families, especially in the culture we were growing up in, that's what we spent our whole lives doing. And the system was stroking each other's egos to keep each other built up so that we didn't have this total breakdown and fall apart of the family. But in reality, to just be the truth, because of that, we've in some ways had a total fall apart of the family too. Where it's so interesting to me to talk about this, because Amy and I come from such different families and such different paths through that family. And if you were to look on the outside, looking in, you go, oh, Greg's family's got it all together. Man, they're really working well together. They've got it put together. They're a great family. And if you look at Amy's family on the outside, you go, well, that's kind of messy. That's a little messy over there. They don't quite have it together. But in all reality, I can go on a week vacation with Amy's family and I can sit in a room and enjoy each one of them in a separate way, in an honest way of who exactly I am, and love every minute of it. And we're together and we enjoy each other and it's wonderful. I can't do that with my family. I'm working on getting there because we have a persona to keep up of what we need to look like.
And it really blocks you from actually being who you are. Where when a family differentiates, there's going to be a lot of differences in it.
Yes.
But when the pressure is towards sameness, or we have to have the same ideas, the same feelings, the same, which is often what we're trying to do when another family member is pressing on us. No, we need to be the same in order to have a relationship. Yeah. And I'm going to say, no, you don't. However, you can have boundaries around what is respectful for you. And you may need to speak those boundaries, or you may just need to enact them. I'm thinking back to the husband I shared, whose wife's family always had these big vacations, and they were hard on the family. And it was hard to say as a husband and a provider, I can't afford this.
Yes.
Or this is too much. That hurts the ego,
that
right?
That is the crushing blow to the ego. You know, can I say this before? Because it just had this aha.
Yeah.
I've been talking about this, and I just had the aha. I've been talking about it from the paradox of a mother and raising her hand and saying all these tasks are too hard, and they can't do it because it's how they measure their ego. You just explained the other side.
Being the provider.
Being the provider, and if there's any moment of saying, hey, we don't have enough to do this, it's like raising our hand and saying we're complete failures.
Right. And so that's hard, right? It hits the ego. And obviously you want your family to have relationships with your wife's family. You want to be able to feel like you fit in and belong. And yet the numbers on the budget sheet don't indicate that's fully possible. And at that point, you get to decide. Maybe you go to the family and say, here's what we can afford, or is there another way or another place, or maybe we have to bow out this time, but it's not because we don't want to be with you. Like, it requires a higher level of honesty. And that's what we're often avoiding, that higher level of honesty or vulnerability. I'm thinking of another client. He was like the good son, like you were, and was always taking care of his parents, doing everything, their lawns, their decorations, their every house project they needed. They'd call him up and they'd be like, hey, Johnny, such and such is broke. And he'd like, be right over. And to the point that he wasn't having time to do his own lawns or his own family house repairs or be with his own children. And when he realized this, it was a really difficult conversation because his parents could actually afford to hire these services. They just liked Johnny.
Well, and it bring him value too.
He gets to be the good son, and, they get to feel loved, that Johnny loves them so much, he would sacrifice, so we're playing into these family dynamics. And for him to say, Mom and Dad, I love you so much, but I actually can't do all of this. That's a boundary.
Yeah.
It's not saying
you need to change.
You need to change, or you can
different.
ask me. He's just being honest and saying, I actually can't do all of this. And I don't think it's actually good for me either. Here's what I'm willing to do. Here's what I'm not. And let them take it from there. And obviously that's going to cause some rupture, right? Because parents like to be able to just call up Johnny and they love to brag, my Johnny boy takes such good care of me, on and on and on. And Johnny gets to be the noble good child. And so it does require looking a little deeper into these dynamics and patterns and family systems that have been set up and being willing to say, I love them and it's not good for me to do this.
Or them.
or them even. Yeah. Like, cause they kind of become more and more helpless and they don't even think about, hey, maybe can we fix the drain ourselves? They could just call Johnny. And so it challenges the system, but you don't want to do that challenge again out of like revenge or
you don't want to try to go in and destroy it
or control. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah. When you set a boundary well, the boundary is about respectful to you and to them, and you're not trying to control them. You're actually trying to take care of you.
Yeah. It really gets down to the point of how can I strip away all the bullshit that I've put around myself to control the situation with these others in relationships and get to who I really am, and not in an angry or a justified way set those boundaries for them to know who I really am and what I will and won't accept for myself. And it is the scariest thing to do in life. Mm-hmm. But the point we're trying to drive home is that intimate relationships can't happen, whether it is with your spouse or a family member. Those relationships can't happen any other way. They're a facade of a relationship. They're not really intimate.
But we kind of like them because we kind of like some of those facades sometimes.
Right, because it's easy in our minds to build up our egos and to keep other people's egos intact when we do this.
Yeah.
We're juggling this act of building up and holding each other's egos. And it's exhausting, but it's the way that we find value to ourselves. And if this is the exact way you find value, why would you cut the legs out from under it and have it come crashing down? That's stupid.
Because it's going to feel real wobbly when you do.
False value is the problem, right? And it's going to, like you said, it's going to feel wobbly when you do it. Like when you do this, it's not going to feel comfortable.
No, it is. It's that courage emotion where it feels absolutely legitimately terrible, but afterwards you gain more self-respect and you see the system evolve and change.
In fact, you probably will regress, right? There will be a point of regression. You'll step forward and you'll say, I'm going to stand up. I'm okay in my emotions. And this happened for me. I'll say I regressed in moments where I was like, okay, I'm good. This is how I am. I've shared it. And then as Amy said, she watched me get back around with my family and I would regress back to where I was at. Right. And you're like, you're not that ego seeking validation whore that you once were.
Yeah.
Why do you all of a sudden become it? And it's because you get back in that familiar pattern that you knew for years and years and years. And those protective means come. I think one of the really, really important things to say as we were painting the inside of the house and doing all this work, Amy was listening to Tony Overbay. And shout out to Tony. Thank you for this. He just says stuff in these certain ways. He's like, those feelings aren't invalid. They're the first responders. Mm-hmm. They're on scene before your mind knows what's going on. And to me, it made so much sense. That's been my whole career. I've been dealing with first responders. I work on the software that gets them there the fastest and sends the right things, right? That's what I've been doing for my whole career. So it really hit home to me. Like they're showing up and their job isn't to fix all the problems. Their job is to control the situation so people's lives continue to happen, right? And so those feelings aren't there to fix everything. Mm-mm. They're the first responders to show you there's something that's not going on here. Over all the years that you've been here, our minds have picked up these different things that have gone on, and these are the ones that can fire first to help us know the situation is not what we want it to be and we need help. The problem is we either ignore them because we don't want them, or we let them drive our complete behavior. And they're not the doctors doing the surgery to save lives. Mm-mm. They're to stabilize the patient, get them in the ambulance, get them to the hospital. We treat them as the doctors.
Right. And you want to be able to look at that first response as saying, hey, something needs attention here. And that, like you said, those first responders aren't usually the doctors that you want doing the intensive surgeries. They're the one that says, hey, we have a problem.
Yeah, let's stabilize the situation.
And so that's when you then take it, you're like, oh, right, we have a problem. Let's take a look.
Yep, and let's dig deeper.
Let's take a look and see what I'm believing, what I'm thinking is mine, what isn't mine, where do I need to grow up? Where am I living in like a childish pattern? Where am I validation seeking? Where am I like believing that if I keep carrying on this persona, it's going to be good for everybody?
We can't tell you how many times someone comes to us and says, I want to fix this person, change the situation. And it's whether in this situation, we have it where the person that is the child is trying to say that, but most likely it's the spouse of that person that says this is wrong because they see it more clearly because they're outside. and trying to fix the mother-in-law and fix the husband at the same time.
Oof.
And is in a disastrous mess.
Yep.
And that's why, from our experience of living this and going through it, and then also coaching a lot of couples out of this experience so that they can understand how to go through this and understand where they can take ownership and what they can resolve and how they can set these clear boundaries, we know that we can guide you through this process.
Right. And it's not about controlling others. It's actually about taking that deeper look into yourself. And when you take that deeper look, you're going to have to be willing to confront some things. I really liked to be the overfunctioner, like little Johnny, who was like, yes, I can fix that for you. I can take care of that. There was a lot of my identity wrapped up in being that person who could go rescue and save. And that's what I really had to unravel and allow myself to be with others, but not to take away their struggle, because often that's the exact struggle they need to grow. And so it's, hey, I'm here with you. Tell me what's difficult. I hear you, but not taking ownership of what's actually theirs. And that's really hard to do. It was for me, at least, when you have been taking ownership for so long and you're so certain, you know exactly what would, remediate this problem. I also just want to mention, we mentioned boundaries and we mentioned the book. So let me just give the actual clear reference. The Boundaries book was written by John Townsend and Henry Cloud, and it's called Boundaries: When to Say Yes, When to Say No, to Take Control of Your Life. And this was a book I probably read about 10 years ago, and it does have the example of the backyard in it. It has several examples that apply not only to marriage, but extended family, to parenting. Often as parents too, we are letting a child overrun their boundaries.
Or we're overrunning our boundaries with a child.
Yes. And so this applies in so many places. And again, boundaries aren't ever about controlling someone else. Never. They're about being willing to be honest about yourself and really how to take care of that self.
We talk about differentiation, right? We want to be a whole person and understand that we have impact on others. This is being the honest side of what that impact is. Like, you impact me in this way, not to point it out and have you change, but just to be aware of it. This is where I'm impacted. This is my boundary. Mm-hmm. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We know that there's all kinds of things that get in the way for us having an intimate relationship, and this is one of them.
Right. And I think it's really important as a couple that you draw that sacred circle around the two of you and really protect that in not like a guarded way, but in a way that says this matters. And healthy boundaries help not only us function well individually, but together, and also the whole family. Because if our boundaries get out of whack, it impacts extended family, it impacts our children, it impacts friendships. Like, it's so crucial that the boundaries that we have are upheld between us and also for us.
Yeah, and I would probably say in a different way, because when you say this sacred circle or boundary around it, that sends sirens off in my mind, because now it's like the wife wins at all costs. You just need to go screw your other relationships.
No,
and I know that's not what you mean, but that's what I want to say around that, is that this is a negotiation, or not even a negotiation. That's not the right word. This is a process of learning who you are and how you interact. Your spouse is an important part of that, a very important part of it. Your parents are an important part of that. They are important too, your siblings. And so each one of the pieces are important to you. And I don't think it's a ranked stacking game of who wins this and who loses that, because as soon as we do that, then we get into a problem where we're trying to fight this battle. In my mind, it's understanding, how do I become stable in who I am foundationally, so that I can be very honest with that important person, my spouse. I can be very honest with that important person, my mom, my siblings. And each one of those people may not like the pieces they see of me, or may not appreciate those, but I'm going to be open and honest with them. And that's going to allow me to have an intimate relationship. And those intimate relationships are different in each one. You don't have the same intimate relationship with your spouse you have with your mom. In fact, it gets icky if you think about that.
Or your brothers or sisters.
That's why wives never want to make love to their, the person that they're caretaking, because that's not the relationship of intimacy that they want. So that's the whole picture of knowing you're going to stand there and these people have importance to you and you're going to be differentiated with each one of them in that importance.
Mm-hmm. Right. I guess I was just saying the boundary is like our house. This is our house. This is our marriage. And we need to be able to look at what might be overstepping or where we're overstepping and being able to like have those conversations so that we're not trying to take over the whole neighborhood and do everybody's job, nor are we like boundaryless and letting everything and everyone impact us.
It's absolutely part of the process of doing it. But all of those relationships are important in your life. And there's different things that you need to expose of yourself to be vulnerable in each one of those relationships. And we can help you look in there. So we appreciate you listening to us. Please go sign up for a consult.
Go like and subscribe. Leave us a message. Leave us a review.
Look forward to our new offer coming out here that Amy is about to blurt out. So we got to go. Until next time.
Keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.